7 o'clock, time for our regularly scheduled meeting. John, let's have Mike call the roll, please.
Collier-Wise. Helwig.
Here.
Holland.
Here.
Humphrey.
Here.
Price.
Here.
Sorensen.
Here.
Ward.
Here.
Wilson.
Here.
Mayor Powell.
Here. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next item are minutes, and we have the minutes from February 4th at special meeting and February 4th regular meeting.
Move approval.
Second.
A motion, a second, to approve the minutes as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 4, adoption of the agenda. Mike, John, any additions, corrections that you're aware of?
No.
Okay.
Second.
A motion, a second, to approve the agenda as printed. And under visitors be heard. Oh. Let's do the formality. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Now carries. Thank you. Okay. Public hearings. Addressing the council. Persons addressing the council shall use the microphone at the podium. Please raise your hand to be recognized. Go to the podium and state your name and address. For items not on the agenda, members of the public may speak under visitors be heard on any topic not on the agenda. Remarks are limited to 5 minutes and no decision will be made at this time. For agenda items, public testimony will be taken at the beginning of each agenda item after the subject has been announced by the mayor and explained by staff. Any citizen who wishes may speak one time for 5 minutes on each agenda item. Public testimony will then be closed and the topic will be given to the governing body for possible action. At this point, only city council members and staff may discuss the current agenda item unless a council member moves to allow another person to speak and there's unanimous consent from the council. Questions from council members, however, may be directed to staff or a member of the public through the presiding officer at any time. At this time, we just have one presentation or proclamation. And Julia, if you would read that, please.
Proclamation of Appreciation for Sheila K. Gestring. Whereas Sheila K. Gestring has been a great asset for the Vermillion community and a financial leader of the University of South Dakota. And whereas Sheila K. Gestring will have an investiture ceremony on Wednesday, February 13th, 2019, as she becomes the 18th president of the University of South Dakota. And whereas the University of South Dakota is the flagship university of the great state of South Dakota. And whereas the city of Vermillion is proud to be the home of the University of South Dakota. And whereas the city of Vermillion and the University of South Dakota are partners in the growth of the community and university students. And whereas Sheila K. Gestring has been an asset to the community through service on the Vermillion Chamber of Commerce and Development Company, including service as president, serving on the ICAP board, and working with the city on many initiatives. And whereas the city of Vermillion has benefited from and appreciates Sheila K. Gestring's past community leadership and looks forward to her leadership of the University of South Dakota. Now, therefore, we, the governing body of the city of Vermillion, South Dakota, do hereby proclaim Wednesday, February 13th, 2019 as Sheila K. Gestring Day, and encourage all Vermillion residents to recognize and thank her for her many years of service to our community and university, and wish her well as she becomes the 18th president of the University of South Dakota. Dated at Vermillion, South Dakota, this 13th day of February, 2019.
Thank you. She couldn't be here this evening, so I'll see that it gets delivered to her. Are there anybody in the audience that has an item they wish to bring forward at this time? Anyone on the council have anything they wish to bring forward at this time? Okay, and we'll move on to public hearings. We have none, so we'll turn to old business and second reading of ordinance 1398 to amend Title 11, Chapter 114, Sections 114.01 through 114.05, 114.08, and 114.10 to amend the regulations governing transportation network drivers and companies. And James, please.
Thank you. The amending of this ordinance goes back to a conference call that John Prescott and I had with Lyft at this point, probably a month and a half to 2 months ago. We asked Lyft to provide us with some additional information about their background check process to discuss ordinance language changes for the city to consider. After reviewing the information that they've provided, we would recommend removing from our ordinance the requirement of drivers having to submit a DCI fingerprint background check every third year, and then add additional language to section 114.10, which would require TNCs to conduct a quote city-approved local and national criminal background check capable of ensuring compliance with SDCL 32-40-5. This adjustment would allow companies like Lyft to have a thorough screening process to fully assume the responsibility and liability of screening drivers, requiring future TNCs to have their background check process reviewed by city staff prior to having TNC licenses issued to their drivers. This ordinance would also add an additional provision to section 114.10 requiring a TNC to provide a copy of its active South Dakota sales tax license to the city to help ensure that the company has legitimate standing in South Dakota. Additional changes that we have recommended here are changes to the definitions and a few language clarifications. The council approved the first reading of this ordinance 1398 at the February 4, 2019 meeting. Administration would recommend approving the second reading of 1398, which, as mentioned, would amend the regulations governing TNC drivers and companies. A roll call vote is required for the second reading of all ordinances. A roll call vote is required. Yeah, that repeats itself. Got the picture the first time.
Any comments or questions from the audience on this item? Council? A motion and a second. Would you please set the machinery for our roll call vote? The results are 8 yes and 0 no. The motion passes. Thank you. Item 8A is an update on possible changes to city code related to the Human Relations Commission. And Addison, please, welcome back.
Last year in July, the City Council unanimously approved Ordinance 1377 to establish a Human Relations Commission for the city. The Vermillion Human Relations Commission, or VHRC, is charged with two primary tasks. One, education through disseminating information and conducting public meetings regarding inclusivity and anti-discriminatory practice. And two, receiving complaints of alleged discriminatory practice in employment, housing, labor organizations, education, property rights, and providing public services and accommodations. The Commission meets the first Thursday of every month at 7:00 p.m. here at City Hall, and these meetings are open to the public. We have had 5 regular public meetings since our first meeting in September, as well as one 4-hour special meeting in December. During the special meeting, we discussed and agreed upon the specifics of our complaint alternative dispute resolution, or ADR, procedures and policies. Since appointed, the Commission has been focusing on finalizing and disseminating the complaint ADR timeline, templates, and policies. Looking to our current ordinances, we had a general outline to follow to help us achieve these goals. However, as we discussed the practical implementation of our procedures and conferred with representatives from the State Commission of Human Rights, the chairpersons from Brookings and Sioux Falls HRCs, and the city attorney, we came to realize that some amendments to our ordinances would be required to accommodate for regulations and state statutes. To be clear, our procedures are still in line with the agreed upon procedures as given to us by the Policies and Procedures Committee from our meeting on April 18th, 2018. The amendments here address policies regarding the procedure timeline and mode of notification to both parties, the addition of a commission subcommittee charged with the preliminary review of any received complaints, a statute workaround with regard to the definition of officially filing a complaint, and basic formatting alignment corrections. In your agenda packet, you have been given a tracked copy of the amendment proposal that we're asking for you to consider at the next council meeting on March 4th. This draft was reviewed and approved for this presentation by the VHRC during our February 7th meeting. As these changes are necessary for the Commission to be able to start receiving complaints, we are hoping to get them approved by May so that any new members appointed at the end of this term will be able to fulfill both of their duties as soon as they are appointed. There are no expenses to consider with this agenda item, and the administration recommends that the City Council receive the information and, if deemed appropriate, schedule the first reading of the amendment proposal for the March 4th, 2019 City Council meeting. At this time, Vice Chairperson Travis Lutler and I are here to answer any questions that you may have over this draft proposal or any other VHRC business.
Thank you, Addison. Council question, Rich, please.
Yes, a couple of things, please. 32.52, you've got a statement that says, B, it says, the complainant fails to state or claim within the verified complaint form upon which relief can be granted. I read it several times, I don't understand it. Could it either be reworded or am I just dense?
Right. So if I'm right now coming up short of a reason that a complainant would give for not receiving or where they wouldn't have relief granted, a prayer for relief. That would be for employment, it would be back pay or anything like that. Again, it's not to confuse that we would be able to grant that, but that would be needed in order to establish a prima facie case. So if it were to be transferred to the State Commission or referred to the State Commission or to a court of competent jurisdiction, they would need that element to have a case.
I'm sorry, what element? A verified complaint form?
No, sorry, a claim upon which relief can be granted.
I don't understand the word case. I've got one more.
Oh, go ahead.
This is just semantics, I guess, right word. In the 32.55 D, that is such a significant statement, I would suggest that you move it to A, even though it doesn't exist from applying importance. This is basically you're saying we're not going to publish it. The example commission and the party involved in the verified complaint, that statement, which is a very good statement. I'm suggesting move it to A and say this is really important to us, we're not going to divulge the information until something's been made.
Okay. Yeah, that's definitely an easy edit that we could review.
Thank you.
Okay, Tom, please.
First of all, thank you.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't mean to, I apologize if this is overly simple, but that's a legal concept that you have there. It's a kind of a court thing. A court will not take a case sometimes if there's no relief that can be granted in the complaint as it was complained, or standing is another thing like that. That I believe that's what that really implies,
Right.
A sort of a court process. And I know we didn't set this up to be that formal yet,
Right.
Although this is proper. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, you just said, you told me it's a lawyer thing, that's why I don't understand it.
Okay. So let me say that, first of all, I want to remind everybody how good it was to create this commission as a starting point. And I think we all knew that as time goes on, this will evolve. And it may become more formal, it may not, but I have heard from members of the commission who want to know, is this it? And my answer to them is, no, bring proposals if you want to talk about them. So I believe we slowly will evolve, and this is an excellent commission to have for our citizens in this community. So unless anybody else has questions, I would move to receive this information and ask the city manager, if possible, to get it on the agenda as proposed, and if possible, make the adjustments as Alderman Holland suggested. I move approval.
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Tom, would you tell me what you said to Rich? about when he said switch?
There are instances where courts will refuse to hear a case because you didn't ask for something that can be provided relief. It's not within the court's jurisdictions what it all boils down to. Another example might be, do you have standing to bring this complaint?
So
It's
there's
a
no
similar-
problem with switching paragraphs?
Oh, I don't think so, no.
Oh, okay.
No.
I thought that's what you were referring to.
No, he was redefining the one I couldn't understand.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
that went to his first question, so,
I
anyway,
Yes, moved and seconded.
It has been moved and
and I
seconded.
will, I should defer to Mr. McCullough, who's our resident legal expert.
The motion to dismiss for failure to state a claim upon which relief can be granted is a statutory defense contained in the Rules of Civil Procedure, and it's used in almost every answer to every complaint, whether it's a good complaint or an invalid complaint. But the Brookings example for the Human Relations Commission and the Rapid City, and I believe Sioux Falls, all contain that statutory ground for dismissing a complaint. If for some reason it just doesn't state a claim upon which relief can be granted. In this particular case, it may be somewhat repetitive because it already says earlier in that section that if there's any act or omission that's alleged that the commission doesn't have any jurisdiction to investigate, that they'll dismiss it for that reason. But that's an example of why a complaint wouldn't state a claim, as if they just didn't simply have the grounds to even hear it.
Thank you.
May I offer my apologies to Mr. McCullough? I should have deferred to him in the first place. I apologize.
Julia, did you have a question or comment? Okay, we've had a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, council. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Item B is a request from Vermillion Chamber of Commerce and Development Company to close Prentice Avenue from East Main Street to East Clark Street on Thursday, May 9, 2019, from 4 to 9 p.m. for a professional baseball exhibition game. And let's see, James, there he is.
Yes, the Vermillion Area Chamber of Commerce and Development Company is requesting a street closure for the professional baseball exhibition event between the Sioux City Explorers and the Sioux Falls Canaries on Thursday, May 9th. The closure would be for Prentice Avenue from East Clark to East Main, and that would take effect from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. They have relayed to the city that they will notify all the residents that could be affected by the closure. The contact for this event is VCDC staff member Mike Bartos, who submitted the application that's attached in your packet. This event is one of many that the VCDC and the bid board have presented as opportunities to increase visitor spending in the community by promoting Vermillion and Clay County as a destination for popular events. Being that there are two competing teams from the nearby cities of Sioux City and Sioux Falls, there's increased interest in the surrounding area for this event. This closure would not require any cleanup, as it is merely a safety precaution in the event that you'll have children out in the street trying to retrieve foul balls and things of that nature. Strategic investments such as this are key pieces in VCDC's plan to enhance Vermillion's economic and community environment, which I let them know the city is in full support of. No financial considerations. On-duty park staff assisting with the event and VCDC staff will set up and remove the barricades. VCDC and park staff will man the barricades and allow residents to have access during the closure. Administration recommends that the City Council approve this street closure, Prentice Avenue from East Clark to East Main, on May 9th from 4 to 9 to accommodate the professional baseball exhibition, which I think
Thank
sounds
you, Jay.
particularly excellent. So.
Okay. Anything from the council? Comments from the council?
Second.
Motion a second to approve the Prentice Avenue street closure. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. Item C is a final plat for lots 1 and 2, Grow Addition, in the northwest quarter of the northeast quarter of Section 20, T9 to N, R51W of the 5th Prime Meridian, Clay County, South Dakota. And Jose, please.
Thank you. Brent Land Surveying submitted a plat on behalf of the owner, Mr. Merritt Grove. The plat will be consolidating land claimed by the owner and replatted into 2 separate lots. The owner's intention is to separate the existing single-family dwelling addressed at 2509 East Main and the rest of the land containing wetlands. Right now, I don't know if you can see that lighter line. So Mr. Merritt, Mr. Grove actually owns all of this dark area. And right now, there's a house located right in here somewhere. What he's intending to do, as I just mentioned, is that he will be separating the house from the remainder of the area that's considerably full of wetlands, I guess. And he will still have enough access in there, so if this were to be replatted into a lot at a later time, he could still do that. The plat falls within joint jurisdictional zoning area. As such, the plat's actually reviewed first by the county's Planning and Zoning Commission, and they recommend to the city council for the council's approval. It should also be noted that the city council and the county commissioners at a joint meeting, they did grant Mr. Grow a variance for having a smaller lot than allowed by the ordinance, and that would be lot number 1. This was approved at the December 3rd, 2018 meeting. The County Planning Commission reviewed it and recommend approval of the plat. They reviewed this at their January 29th, 2019 meeting. Besides a variance previously granted, staff reviewed the plat and it meets with all of code provisions. All fees have been paid by the applicant. Staff finds that the plat meets ordinance requirements and recommends approval of the final plat.
Thanks, Jose. Council?
Second.
We have a motion to second. Further discussion? Yes, Julia.
How is this different from the December 3rd? Is this just now that there's a variance now? You can add it?
Yep, no, he can plat it. Otherwise, the lot number 1 would have had to be at least 1 acre.
Further discussion, questions? We have a motion to second. All in favor signify by, oh, I'm sorry, did you have a question? That's what we're going to do.
No.
No, it's not a second reading. Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no? No. Well, passes. You don't want to roll call vote, do you? Okay. No, you could have a roll call if you wanted. Item D, report of the Labor and Finance Committee on making a contribution to the State Special Olympics Summer Games. And John, please.
Thank you. Excuse me, this is pretty straightforward. The Summer Olympics, Special Olympics Summer Games are coming to Vermillion May 16th, 17th, and 18th, 2019. We should also have those games in 2020. The city did receive a request for a donation to help support that statewide activity to be here in Vermillion. The Labor and Finance Committee met after the February 4th evening meeting, and they are recommending a $2,500 contribution to the May 2019 Summer Special Olympic Games. So at this point in time, oh, and they did recommend that come from the Bedboard and Booze Fund. I think the general fund would really be the only other option. Be happy to entertain the direction of the council on that, but at this point in time, the recommendation is to provide a $2,500 donation to the Special Olympics 2019 Summer Games here in Vermillion. No action can be taken, but just a report of the committee.
So would there be action then at a subsequent meeting? Yes. Okay. Any questions of John on this, Tom?
Why would we need to wait?
We
To just
can't-
look at the 2 funds and,
When a city council committee meets, the state statute prevents taking action at the same meeting where the report of the committee is reported. So then the action would have to be at your next meeting.
Thank you.
Can we communicate to them, to put, since they want to do this again in 2020, are they planning on, and if so, we should communicate them to put forth a proposal for 2020?
Okay. Okay.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, the
Yeah, this is a 1 year at a time. Sure, I'm sure they will. Do we need a consensus, John, or just?
I think you may just acknowledge receipt of the report title,
Okay.
so that there's at least record that the report was made, so
Okay.
next meeting when action's taken, somebody knows that.
Gotcha.
there's such meetings.
So moved.
Motion and second to receive the Labor and Finance Committee meeting report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item E, a resolution authorizing the purchase of 1 police vehicle and 3 pickup trucks. And Jose, please. You got quite of an agenda here tonight.
Yeah.
Do you get paid on volume here?
No, just, it's one shot.
Oh, okay.
So at the budget sessions in August, the City Council reviewed the 2019 equipment replacement schedule. As part of the 2019 equipment replacement schedule, the following vehicles were to be replaced. There's a list there. Essentially, it's 4 vehicles, a 2004 3/4-ton flatbed pickup truck from the Street Department, 2003 3/4-ton pickup truck from the Water Department, 2016 Ford Interceptor SUV from the Police Department, and the 2001 1-ton flatbed pickup truck from Light and Power. Staff compared prices acquired from Sourcewell and state awards for the vehicles, and then also compare these with similar vehicles from Vermillion Ford and Jerry Chevrolet. City received 2 bids for a 2019 Ford Super Duty F-350 single rear wheel for $29,878 each from Vermillion Ford. They also received a quote, or we also received a quote from for a 2019 Ford Interceptor SUV for $35,695 from Vermillion Ford, and also a bid on a 2019 Ford F-550 from Vermillion Ford for $41,675. Should be noted that for the 2 F-350s, staff did look into the state's bid and also a possible Chevy Sourcewell option. The vehicles available from the state bid and from Sourcewell would have been either larger than necessary or more expensive. After receiving the bids from the state and from Sourcewell, the city approached the local dealers to see if they would at the very least match the Sourcewell and state quotes, which is the numbers that I just read to you. The 2019 equipment replacement fund includes a budget of $113,000 for these purchases. The cost of all the vehicles being purchased comes up to $137,126. The difference is mainly attributed to the fact that the estimated price of the vehicles used in the equipment replacement fund was too low. The budget will have to be revised to cover any losses in the fund. Administration recommends approving the resolution to purchase the following vehicles from Vermillion Ford: 2 2019 Ford Super Duty F-350s single rear wheel for $59,756, a 2019 Ford Interceptor SUV for $35,695, and a 2019 Ford F-550 for $41,675.
Questions, comments, council?
Second.
Motion is second to approve. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. Item F, resolution authorizing the purchase of a trailer for the Parks and Recreation Department. Jose, please.
Thanks. Again, as part of the 2019 equipment replacement schedule, the City Council agreed to purchase a dump trailer for the Parks and Rec Department. The piece of equipment is under the bid law limit of $50,000. The city only received 1 quote from those requested. This quote was from Yankton Trailers from Yankton. The quote received was for a 76-inch, 10-foot dump trailer. The quote was for $5,530. The 2019 equipment replacement fund includes a transfer of $8,000 from the second penny fund to cover for the expense of the purchase. Since the cost is less than the originally expected, the remaining $2,400 will remain in the second penny fund. Administration recommends approving the resolution to purchase a 76-inch by 10-foot dump trailer from Yankton Trailers for $5,530.
Thanks, Jose. Council?
So moved.
A motion and a second to approve the resolution authorizing the purchase of a dump truck trailer. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item G, agreement for professional services with Helms and Associates for hangar taxi lanes rehabilitation design project. Jose, please.
Thank you. The latest CIP plan for the airport shows that during the 2019 year, the city would be doing the design for the hangar taxi lane rehabilitation project. The agreement with Helms and Associates is for the rehabilitation of the hangar taxi lanes. The actual work to rehabilitate the hangar taxi lanes would start in 2019 and be completed in 2020. The design is estimated to cost $46,703.92. The city would initially be paying for the entire cost of the project, with 95% of the cost being refunded at a later time. In essence, the city only pays for 5% of the cost, so close to $2,400. Administration recommends allowing the mayor to sign the agreement for professional services so that the city can start the design process to rehabilitate the hangar taxi lanes.
Thank you, Jose. Council?
I just have a question. When we have divided percentages on these grants, which is a great thing, because we usually don't pay more than 20% in some cases, and this is even better. But what gives us assurance that the federal government or the state government or whomever it is will actually do that, refund us? And do they do it, wait till it's all done, as I understand it?
If I may.
Go ahead,
Actually, I noticed this today, I guess. The next item on the agenda, item H,
Explains that.
would essentially answer your question, but there's a master agreement, for lack of a better term, that the city signs with them, saying that we will be reimbursed. It doesn't set the actual percentages, but it does certify or agree.
So we have an agreement in writing.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yep.
Thank you for that, for answering that.
A motion and a second to approve the agreement. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item H, agency agreement between the State of South Dakota Department of Transportation and the City of Vermillion for airport improvements. Jose, please.
Thanks. So as I mentioned on the previous item, state law requires that all federal funding for airports go through the DOT before being distributed to the city. This agreement that's on hand right now is periodically signed by the city whenever new language is inserted into the body. Currently, the city is responsible to pay for the entire cost of projects completed at the airport. This agreement allows the state to reimburse the city for a large portion of the cost. This time, the reimbursement rate is 90 from the feds, 5 from the state, and the remaining percentage from the city. This agreement does not pin down the reimbursement rate, but it makes reimbursement possible as long as certain criteria are met. And again, it should be noted that even though this agreement is very, very general in nature, the city would actually still be required to enter into a separate agreement with the DOT for each particular item. So again, similar to the previous project or previous agenda item. There's no cost associated with this item. Administration recommends allowing the mayor to sign the agency agreement between the DOT and the City of Vermillion for airport improvements.
Council? Motion and a second to approve the agency agreement between the state and the city. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thanks. Let's see. Do we get to switch? No. Renewal of janitorial services for the City of Vermillion facilities. Jose.
Thank you. Since February 2017, the city has contracted with Service Masters of Southeast South Dakota from Yankton for janitorial services in several city buildings. The original contract signed on February 6, 2017 allowed for 2 one-year additional renewals. This year would be the second and last one-year renewal. The original contract with Service Masters required that they clean the service center, the community center or the armory, recycling center, wastewater treatment plant, the library, the Vermillion Fire EMS Station 1, and the Bluffs Golf Course Clubhouse. Last year, the Bluffs Golf Course Clubhouse was removed from the list of buildings to be cleaned. This year, there were a couple changes. The largest change was the removal of the fire station from the list of buildings to be cleaned, with the exception of the stripping and waxing the floors in parts of the building. In addition to that change, there was a smaller bathroom added at the wastewater treatment plant to be cleaned as well. The new price from ServiceMaster is for $40,146.20. This is roughly $12,000 less than the previous contract. The 2019 budget includes money for the janitorial services. Administration recommends renewing the contract with ServiceMaster of Southeast South Dakota for $40,146.20 and to allow the city manager to sign the contract.
Thanks, Jose. Any questions here, council?
Move approval. Second.
Motion is second to approve the renewal of janitorial services. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Give Jose a break here. Item J, agreement with CCOG to administer South Dakota Housing Development Authority grant for South Dakota Housing Development Authority Housing Opportunity Funds for mobile home renovation. John, please.
Thank you. Last year, we applied for a grant to assist first Cottage Villa residents who may relocate their mobile home to another mobile home park within city limits. As a side note, if the Cottage Villa residents do not use all that funding, it would be available for other mobile home units here in our community. So stay tuned if you are a resident of a mobile home, a property owner of a mobile home here in the community. Whether you live in Cottageville or not, there may be some funding that will become available to you. Excuse me, and feel free to contact us at City Hall. When we originally applied for that grant, it was for $60,000 to assist residents with improvements related to the relocation and safety improvements, and then $6,000 worth of administrative costs. And that's for screening the applicants to make sure they qualify, periodic reports, handling the drawdowns of funds, grant closeout work, that sort of thing. So it included is an agreement that CCOG has prepared, which between the city and CCOG for them to handle those administrative functions and receive the $6,000 that the South Dakota Housing Development Authority set aside for administrative management. I recommend approval of the agreement.
Is there a time limit on those funds?
We have from the contract date, which was signed sometime in December, I believe it's 2 years or 48 months to expend all the funds.
Say that again, 2 years or?
24 months.
Okay. I just
Did my math right. Sorry.
Okay.
2 years.
Council discussion, Rich?
Yeah, it's a matching grant. They're totally saying matching was given with that, so that means 1-for-1. And the other question is, that's from people who
That's a great question. It is a $60,000 match. I will say this one is a little bit different than some of our community development block grants. They are very in tune and accepting of in-kind match. So the time that either staff spends on it, or if there's volunteers which help mobile home residents relocate from Cottageville to somewhere else, that time would be spent. So it is not, this particular grant is not a dollar for dollar. We have to demonstrate $60,000 of in-kind, whether it is cash or support that way. It's a little bit different way of doing some of the grants compared to some of the federal ones we've received. Good.
Thank you.
So what would the monetary values be? For, like if you help them move, or if someone, like what are some examples of that?
Sure. So if a group of volunteers, I know the Ministerial Association's been working to hopefully gather some funds and some support to help people relocate. I believe the national volunteer average is like $21.04 an hour, that we could say any volunteer's time is worth $21 an hour. So they do have that aspect that we can count that way. If this grant does not provide, they cannot be used to pay the cost to relocate the mobile home from one park to the other, but that certainly is an in-kind cost, and that would go a long ways towards matching that $60,000, those individual units that way.
Further questions? Tom?
It's simply a good idea, you're saying, to, I'm guessing maybe, to have CCOG handle this administratively for us rather than the city itself handling it.
Yes, I think we could do it, but the way the grant was set up, and CCOG did write the grant, they basically work with organizations like South Dakota Housing Development Authority, and they build that into the application. So It doesn't cost the city anything. And it's fine, I mean, that way when these people are turning in information and they're being screened, it does provide a layer of security from the city that way.
I move approval.
A motion and a second to approve the agreement with CCOG. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Opposed, no. Motion carries. All right, now we go back to Jose. Resolution authorizing the purchase of landfill bale bags. Jose.
Thank you. The Solid Waste Department uses landfill bale bags in its daily operations at the landfill. The landfill baler compresses solid waste into the bale bags and slides the waste into the bale bags before its bale waste is transported to the landfill cell for disposal. Less than a year ago, the city actually purchased 18,000 bale bags from Global Packaging Solutions, or GPS, for $54,900. Since receiving the bale bags, the city has had issues with some of the bags not fitting the baler chute properly. Staff has been in constant contact with GPS regarding the issues with existing bale bags. After many conversations, it was agreed that GPS would credit the city for a third of the bale bags bought in 2018. However, in order for this to take place, the city would need to purchase bags from them in 2019. After consideration of the proposal, staff believes that purchasing the bale bags from GPS would be the best option for the city. The new order would be for 18,000 bale bags for $36,600, and this would include the $18,300 credit for the defective bags received in 2018. Statute 518A-22, Section 3, allows for the city to purchase from a bid awarded within 12 months of the date of the new order. The 2019 Joint Powers landfill budget includes funding for the landfill bale bags. Administration recommends approving the resolution to purchase landfill bale bags from GPS for $36,600.
Thank you, Jose. Questions? Rich?
So Dave, you did another vote. I mean, do we really use 1,500 bags a month? These are huge bags.
Yes, they do.
Sometimes in less than a year, I think.
Yep, and that's one of the issues that we're having even now, even the year before, that we actually ran out. So we start borrowing bags from Pier, because they have the same baler as we do, and then we have kind of like an IOU thing going with them.
It's really hard to believe we could even bag that many.
Oh yeah, they're pretty quick.
Okay, thank you.
Julia?
So it seems like there was a problem this year, and they're assuring us that there won't be a problem again because they're moving back to their original manufacturing location. But will we have any assurance that if this happens again, that they're not just going to take back only a third of all the bags that were incorrect?
No, I guess, besides the fact that, I guess what you see in here, we do have, the issue that we're running into is that there's only so many suppliers, and even last year we weren't even able to get all of the suppliers to bid on our project or on our bags. This year, Pier actually purchased the same bags as we did after our issues, and their bags have been they haven't been having as many issues. You're going to get some issues no matter what, but they haven't been getting to the same rate as we have, 25 to 33% of bags being defective. So, do we have any assurances? No, we don't.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the resolution authorizing the purchase of bale bags. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jose. We have no bid openings, so we'll turn to number 10, John's manager's report, please.
Well, thank you. I can't see outside, but just a reminder that in the event it does snow, or as we've been experiencing, getting snow, just a reminder that the sidewalks need to be cleared within 24 hours after the end of that snow event. Also a reminder, it could be a cold one, but the polar plunge is coming Saturday, February 23rd. It's a little colder than they've had in some past years, but Yeah, Kidder Street will be closed from Court Street west to the north-south alley between Court and Market Street. The closure is from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m., and that's for setup for the polar plunge and then also the tear down. And then one final item, we do have an opening on our Planning Commission. We had a member resign. The term that they vacated does run until June of 2022. So expression of interest forms are due by Wednesday, March 13th, with the anticipation that the City Council would make an appointment at the March 18th meeting.
Thank you, John. Any questions, comments for our city manager? Okay, then we'll turn to invoices payable. Any questions for Mike? A motion to second and a second to pay our bills. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. At this time, I'd like to have a motion to go into executive session for a contractual matter.
Second.
Motion is second to go into executive session at 7:45. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thanks, Addison.
Yeah, thanks.